Well, some of the country's biggest tech names are facing new scrutiny today. Surprise, surprise. A group of state attorneys general are now reportedly looking to launch their own investigation into Facebook, Google, Amazon, and Apple. Meanwhile, Twitter and Facebook are both accusing China of spreading misinformation in Hong Kong amid the protests there. You don't often see Facebook and Twitter working together in that way. Yahoo Finance's tech editor Dan Howley joins us now to discuss. Hey, Dan.
How's it going?
Good. Why don't we start with the state AGs? What do they think they can do that is not being accomplished by the numerous other ongoing investigations and probes?
It's interesting because if you look back at what happened with Microsoft, way back in the old days. That's my minor accent, I guess. So what happened was the state's attorney general wanted to break up Microsoft. They were really pushing for it. The original ruling was that Microsoft should have been broken up, but then there was an appeal, and so they basically said, okay, we'll come to an agreement with the Microsoft and the states and basically come up with some kind of way to make you happy and not have us break up. So, but they're really hardliners for stuff like this. That seems to be the way it usually goes. And it'll be interesting to see with so many cooks in the kitchen how something like this can work out now, because usually you can come to some kind of agreement with the DOJ or the FTC, but now you're going to have to appease these states' attorneys general from various states, and that's going to just add a lot more of a headache to these companies. And what they're really looking at is whether or not they're using their market power or their monopoly power to do anything that would be anti-competitive. That's stifling competition, that's aggressive buyouts of competitors, things along those lines. And it's the exact same thing that the FTC is looking at, the exact same thing that the DOJ is looking at. And, we've spoken to experts before for various stories on this topic, and the vast majority of them say breaking up these companies isn't what you want to do. What you want to do is have some kind of remedy that allows them to continue to operate, but strips them of any ability to do anything anti-competitive. So it would be just, I forget what the exact name of it is, but a conduct remedy. It would be a conduct remedy for them. And that's really the way that a lot of the experts think this is going to go. Not necessarily breaking up Facebook, Google, but the head of the FTC has said, we could break up Facebook.
Right, but he also, it's hard to do. Yeah. It would be hard to do.
We could do it. It's difficult. Well, no duh, it's difficult.
Well, I'm curious about this conduct remedy, because usually what happens in these situations is they do an investigation and it ends in a multi-billion-dollar fine that these companies can afford, right? I mean, we've seen that in Europe countless times.
Yeah, we just saw Facebook hit with a fine for something separate entirely by the FTC. That was for the privacy scandal related to Cambridge Analytica. That was just $5 billion for that alone. Now, if we see another fine coming down, that could potentially be even more. That was the largest fine for any kind of privacy violation in the U.S., globally, really. It'll be interesting to see how these different investigations play out. There's 3 concurrent investigations now going on with these tech companies. And don't forget, the FTC and DOJ are seemingly jockeying for position to see who gets to prosecute who. And originally it sounded like there was an agreement. You take 2, we'll take 2, but now it's a turf war going on.
Very briefly, Dan, we mentioned what is happening with China and Facebook and Twitter. We've seen a lot of buzz on Twitter about misinformation about the Hong Kong protests. What are Twitter and Facebook doing about that right now?
So they've taken down a number of accounts, a number of posts, groups in the different social networks, basically, that were pushing forward this propaganda, this Chinese state propaganda, and they've linked it to the Chinese state-run entities because they were open IP addresses. Now, if you're in China, you're behind what they call the Great Firewall. That means
you can't. VPN.
Yeah, you have to VPN in, or if it's a completely unblocked IP address, that probably means you're working for the state. So that's really what happened here. They were like, well, we just kind of followed the thread.
Some easy sleuthing.
Yeah,
right.
And it was interesting. We were on the final round yesterday with Andy Serwer, and he had pointed out this isn't something that China usually does. They don't want to be publicly shown as interfering like this. That's more of Russia's MO, where they're like, yes, we're doing it, and we will be very open about it.
Shows you how serious the Hong Kong protests are getting.